This is my own first paranormal experience that changed my view of reality and made me research the subject for a short period of time until I eventually forgot about it. It happened back in January 2015. At the time, I worked at a nightclub in Tysons Corner, Virginia. I'd hang out with my coworkers for an hour or so after our shift ended around 3 a.m., especially on Saturdays, since almost all of us were off for the next few days. The place was a 10-minute drive from where I lived, so most of the time, one of my coworkers would drop me off because I wasn't driving at the time. I lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood in McLean, Virginia, in a house with two roommates. And this is exactly where it happened. At around 4 a.m., my coworker, who was also my friend, pulled up in the driveway and parks. We were continuing our conversation that started during the drive. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and for a second, in the rearview mirror, I see the profile side of a skinny girl walking from the left to the right side of the car, with her head slightly tilted towards the ground. She seemed to be between 12 to 15 years old, with long black hair covering most of her face. She was almost touching the trunk. That's how close she appeared to be. She had a white dress with washed-out teal designs. Her hair was thick, a bit shiny, and slightly disheveled. At that moment, I jerk to my right and look in the right side view mirror, expecting to see her walking past the car and to get a better look. But nothing. No girl. No movement. I hear my friend speak to me, but I didn't register what he just said, because now I'm fucking freaking out. I immediately turn my whole body around and look through the rear glass window, and again, there is nothing. I get out of the car and look around, and there's nothing. I hope to see a car, a bird, or feel a gust of wind that would explain what I just saw, and maybe chalk it up to my brain just making stuff up out of irregular things moving around. But there was nothing. No wind, no cars, and not a single soul around. Just the streetlights in a cold winter night. I look at my friend, and before I say anything, he extends his arm and pulls back his sleeve and says, "What the fuck is going on?" You just gave me goosebumps. And shows me the hairs of his forearm standing on end. I then tell him what I just saw, and he decided to leave. He believed me, because he had known me for more than a year at the time, and we hung out very often, and I was not the type to pull those types of pranks, nor have I believed that the paranormal was a real phenomena back then. Anyway, that was my first paranormal experience. First off, I'll state, I live alone. I'm not the type to typically believe in this Hollywood nonsense or paranormal stuff. However, a disturbance that I heard woke me just as I was about to fall asleep. I went to investigate the noise and saw my treadmill was running. It didn't make sense because the treadmill requires a lanyard key to be reattached before it can even be started, which it was now. So, I checked my surveillance footage on my phone to make sure nobody was here, and I discovered this. As a result, I returned to my room, grabbed my pistol, and checked my house's rooms and garage to make sure nobody was there. I turned on the floodlights and looked outdoors, but found nothing. I also looked at the timestamps and saw the light go off, and then, less than a minute later, she reappear when my other camera detected motion. Does this appear to be a girl in a white dress? Late night interaction with a girl in a white dress. So it happened 2 years ago. I just came back from my vacation trip outside the city. My bus dropped me at the station at approximately 1:30 a.m. I got into the main road and started looking for a cab to go home. There was no cab or any person on site. I was standing for 5 to 8 minutes looking at both sides of the road to find a cab. And on my left, I saw a girl in a white sari, which is a traditional dress for women in my country. Standing like 50 feet away from me under a lamppost, my heart immediately started pounding. I looked the other way and started praying. A few moments later, I heard her saying, "Hey, sir, can you do me a favor?" I was shaking. I turned to her, and she was like 4 feet away from me. I immediately took 2 steps back. She smiled and said, "Are you afraid of me?" I said, "It's almost 2 a.m. and there's a girl in a white sari standing in front of me at a lone place like this. Yes, I'm a bit afraid." She chuckled and said, "Don't be afraid. I'm the one afraid, actually. It's really late and I'm alone here, and I need to go home. But I want someone to accompany me. Would you please come with me? My home is not far from here." Just to let everyone know, in my country, it's not safe for any women to be out alone at night. I was scared shitless, but I didn't want to leave a young girl alone there. So I agreed to give her company, but asked her to keep a distance from me. She chuckled and said, "Okay." I really didn't want to talk or make eye contact with her, so I didn't even ask her why she was alone there at this time of the night. I didn't know where we were going. I just followed her, walking beside her, keeping distance. She also didn't say a word the whole time, which was also really eerie to me. After walking for like 15 minutes, she stopped in front of a steel gate, which was on our right. And she said with a happy face, "My home is a few steps from here. You don't need to take more trouble. I can take care from here. Thank you for helping me. You're a good person." She turned her back and started walking. I thought, my job is done. I turned to the opposite direction and started walking. But out of curiosity, after taking a few steps, I turned my head to see where she was going. She was gone. There's no girl on sight. I turned back and came back in front of the gate and looked around. She was gone. I looked at the gate. It had a padlock on it. There is no way anyone could unlock it, get in, and lock it from the outside in 2 to 3 seconds. It's just not possible, at least for a human. But I still didn't know what the gate was for. I looked up and saw a sign over the gate. It says, "Cemetery." I realized everything that just happened with me. I saw a mosque on site and started running towards it. There's always a mosque near a cemetery in my country. I rushed into the mosque, which obviously was noisy. The imam, aka priest of the mosque, woke up and came with a baton thinking there was a thief. He saw me laying on the floor unconscious. After a few minutes, I woke up. He asked me what happened, and I explained him everything. He understood everything and told me the story of the girl. 7 years ago, a girl was S.'d and unalived. People found her body under the lamppost I was talking about earlier. Her face was messed up. No one identified her. No one came to claim her body, so no complaint was filed. The people responsible still roam free till this day. Since no one claimed her body, the locals buried her in that same cemetery. Since then, a lot of people, especially young guys, have had interactions with her. Some had hostile experiences. Some had peaceful experiences. I would like to think mine was peaceful. The girl in a white dress. This happened about 2019, 2020, somewhere around that time. I live at the bottom end of West Virginia, about an hour from Bland, Virginia, my hunting cabin. My dad came down to visit and we went riding because I had a good spot miles and miles away from anyone, or at least I thought. We went out here to ride and we spent half the day riding. But on the last half hour of daylight, we stopped to look around and just chill out and admire nature. I was looking at the trees and I saw what looked like a woman with a dirty white dress and long blackish hair in the tree, probably 50 yards or so from where we stopped. I pointed it out and he saw it too, so we got the hell out of there. Then, about a week ago, I went out of state to my hunting cabin with my buddy, and I had this weird sudden urge to go into the woods at around 2 a.m. I did what any logical human would do and went out there. Me and my buddy decided we would only go out to my stand and come back, just because we were bored and curious for answers. We go to my stand and I looked at it and had an odd feeling, so I climbed it and noticed the ratchet strap holding it to the tree was snapped. I told him and then we started hearing weird screams, so we got out. It sounded like someone said, "Help me. Please don't leave. Help me." Another thing to add was that there were trees laying down like they were snapped, but there were no signs of any cut trees or nothing. We got back to the cabin and I told him about the white dress girl and he said that he saw it too. Pulled out Snapchat and looked at the map. Turns out where he saw it and where I saw it was in the same woods, just opposite ends. I'm sorry I made this long. I just thought I'd give every detail I could to maybe figure out what this girl was. Any answers or ideas would be much appreciated. Lots of years ago, when I was pregnant with my first child, her father and I were driving out of town to visit family for dinner. It was dark, and where we were headed was about 15 minutes out of town, down a rural road and close to a beach. While we were driving, I looked out the window and saw a pale woman in a white nightdress that was blowing in the wind. It struck me as odd why she would be standing there of all places. She was, say, about 100 or so meters from a house. In the dark, on a cold night, wearing next to nothing. Her feet were bare. The creepiest feeling came over me and I realized, after we had driven past, that the figure with the long flowing hair was semi-transparent. I was trying to decipher in my mind what I saw, trying to tell myself that I imagined it, when my partner suddenly said, "Did you just see a woman in a white dress, like a ghost, or was it just me?" Photo evidence. Background info. My husband's dad is the VP of operations for a company that employs truck drivers for delivery. Anytime a driver hits brakes, speeds excessively, swerves, etc., a camera automatically records just before to just after the incident. It's always on and running, but only records when an unsafe event occurs. And that footage is automatically uploaded in my father-in-law. There are 2 cameras. One records the driver, and one faces the road. He basically determines whether disciplinary action needs to be taken if the driver is driving inappropriately. My father-in-law received a video last spring, and I'm going to describe the events for you. Two truck drivers were driving down a 2-lane road late at night. It's pitch black outside, and they see something ahead in the road. And as they get closer, you can see a female in a white dress walking in their lane. The person turns around to look at them as they pass by. What the video doesn't show is that they stop and jump out because they don't believe there is any way they didn't hit the girl. They don't see anyone in the road, no one in the ditch, no blood, or evidence that anyone was there. They were still convinced they had hit someone and called the police. The police showed up to write a police report and investigate, but found nothing upon searching the surrounding area. Some research was done on the area, and turns out that in 2013, a girl was walking in the road there and was unalived when struck by 2 vehicles. My father-in-law is not tech-savvy, so he logged into his corporate account on my husband's laptop, and we helped him download the video. Unfortunately, for legal reasons, I'm not allowed to share the video, but I did take screen grabs for you to look at. In the video, you can see there are cones that have the shoulders blocked off, which didn't allow them to swerve out of the way. You can see them approaching the woman who is walking in their lane. You can see their reactions before and after passing the lady, and the speed they were traveling at. I have screen grabs of internal emails discussing the event, and the subject line is the ghost incident, but I 100% can't post those. But the entire incident has them in a tizzy. Edit. So, according to mods, I can't post the link to the article about the girl that was unalived years prior on that stretch of the highway. I can DM it to anyone interested. I'm half Japanese, female, living in Japan, and work as a translator-interpreter. A few years ago, I got hired for an awesome project as an interpreter for a producer and an award-winning director for a movie that was to be filmed in Okinawa. The movie didn't come through because there weren't enough sponsors. Anyway, we got flown to Okinawa, and I was excited on so many accounts. Plus, it's my first time to Okinawa. Everything was amazing. The friendly, warm Okinawan people, the food, the weather, and the beautiful beaches. Until we reached the resort hotel. 3 key team members, including myself, were on the same floor. Our rooms were side by side. I remember as I walked up to my room door, I felt like something was off. I knocked firmly 3 times on the door, something I was always told to do by my father, who has traveled around the world for work. And as I opened the door to the room, about 6 feet away, I saw an apparition of a lady, standing there, looking at me. Well, shit. But I had no choice. I'm here for work. She looked like a Japanese lady in her 20s, with long dark hair. It was neat. She was wearing a long, light-colored, bluish-white dress with some sort of a faint floral print, as if it had faded with time. She also looked dark energy-wise, like there's a slight dark gray mist emitting from her. I stood at the entrance and spoke politely in Japanese. "Hello, excuse me. I am not here to disturb your peace or your space. I am here just for 3 days for work, and I will leave after that. Thank you for understanding." I bowed deeply before entering. It seems like she understood me and mostly left me alone, although she barely leaves the spot she was standing at and just watches me whenever I am in the room. Each time I have to enter or leave the room, or have to go to the kitchenette or bathroom, I would have to walk by her. My best friend was in between jobs back then, and whenever I was back in the hotel room, she would spend the entire time on the phone with me so that I was less afraid. Since being on the phone meant I'm distracted from the lady, who was always looking at me. I could feel her watching me, even as I showered. So I had to have my best friend on the speakerphone while I showered. The kitchenette area near where she usually stands is also always colder than the rest of the room, even though the air conditioning isn't there. I was really grateful that it was quite a spacious room, enough for 4 people. There were 2 beds and 2 futons for the tatami area. So this gives me some space between me and the staring ghost lady. I slept with the lights and TV on, but around 3 a.m., I would wake up in shock, and that's because she had come close to me to watch me sleep. It happened every night I was there. I get a feeling that she was just curious about someone who could see her, but nonetheless, it was quite a nerve-wracking experience. Before I left, I bowed to her again and thanked her for sharing her space. My husband saw a woman in a white nightgown. I couldn't sleep after my husband woke up last night and told me that he saw a woman in a white nightgown at the foot of our bed. The woman was standing on my side of the bed just looking, not my husband's side. I would have wrote it off as sleep paralysis, but about 7 years ago, I might have seen this same figure. I was house-sitting at a friend's house and saw this lady in a white nightgown floating above me, looking straight at me. I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't move my body. Suddenly, she just went away. I wonder if the woman that my husband saw is the same woman that I saw 7 years ago. However, I don't live in the same place where I saw this figure when I was younger. I used to live in Hawaii, but about 4 months ago, we moved to Missouri into our new home that was built about 15 years ago. Me and my husband get the feeling that our place may be haunted, but I am not sure. I wonder if it is just our imagination. So far, we have experienced the security alarms go off for no reason when we first moved here. I've seen all of the lights shut off completely for like 5 seconds. Both me and my husband have seen our walk-in closet door open on its own when it was completely shut, which we think could probably be due to the temperature of the room. Not sure. I have felt a poke in my back, but I'm not sure if I'm imagining things. Thinking about getting the house blessed because I am freaked out, but I don't go to church, so I don't really know how to go about that. I vividly remember the night I seen this woman. I was young. I was getting ready for bed, changed my clothes, and was getting ready to turn the TV on to put on a DVD. And the moment I look up in the reflection of the TV, I could see the bed and a woman wearing white with long black hair covering her face looking at me. I was petrified with fear and couldn't move or speak. My first thought was that there is an intruder who broke into my room. But something felt completely off, so I took up the courage to look at her with my own eyes, and then she disappeared, and I quickly looked back at the TV reflection, and she wasn't there either. I'd never seen her again in my life. I'm in my 20s now. I could never explain this logically. To this day, I have no idea what it was, who she was, what she wanted. I've never questioned it until 5 minutes ago. Like, why me? So I'm posting here in hopes someone might have seen something identical and/or could explain this, or even something more logical. Your thoughts and theories are appreciated. I saw a ghost. She was wearing a white dress, and she had blonde hair, but no facial features. I was on the last train to my friend's house. I approached my stop on the London Underground at Becontree Station. It was nearly midnight. As I got off the train, I started to walk up the stairs, but it felt like someone was right behind me. As I spun around, that's when I see the girl ghost. With no face, blonde hair, dressed in white. I screamed and ran as fast as I could. When I arrived at my friend's house, I looked online about Becontree Station, and it said that Becontree Underground Station is supposedly haunted by a girl with blonde hair and white dress with no facial features. I couldn't believe it. I actually saw her. I've been back, but I haven't encountered her again. A woman in white in the forest east of Seattle. About 15 or 16 years ago, I was driving I-90 east from Seattle to Philadelphia late at night. At the time, smartphones and map apps weren't very common, and I didn't have one. So I don't know exactly where I was, but I remember there were tall trees on both sides, and it seemed like it was a deep forest on both sides. Out of nowhere, I saw what looked like a young woman with dark hair and a white dress or nightgown and no shoes, running across the highway. I slammed on the brakes and almost ran off the road, came to a complete stop. I looked behind me and there was nothing there. There were no off-roads, ramp, nothing that would have indicated where she came from, and I didn't see her. After I had a moment to collect myself, I figured I was just getting tired and seeing things. I had been in airports for 20 hours that day. I tried to pull my car over to the side of the highway and take a short nap, but it was a narrow section of the highway, and an 18-wheeler drove past close enough to make me think that wasn't safe. I kept driving, and I swear I saw a sign for a hotel that was 1 or 2 miles north of the highway. So I took that exit and I drove north on that road for what felt like 10 miles, and I found nothing. I kept driving until I found some strange building that had concrete or steel pylons blocking the road. I turned around, got back to I-90, and kept going until I found a rest stop. Based on what I remember and looking at Google Maps today, I think I was in that section of woods somewhere between Seattle and Ellensburg, and I ended up at the rest stop either in Snoqualmie Pass or Indian John Hill. I guess I'm wondering if anyone has had similar experiences. Are there any stories from that area, or was I just tired and seeing things? Can anyone at least tell me where the heck I was? Why did the sign say there was a hotel? What was that weird barricaded building at the end of a long road to nowhere? The Girl in White. It took place around 10 years ago at a Florida hotel. Our family went on vacation to Florida and stayed in a hotel called the Vistana. I was about 8 to 10 at the time. So my brother and I are sleeping in the same bed when suddenly I wake up in the middle of the night around 2 to 3 a.m. When I open my eyes and sit up, I see a young girl with blonde hair and a bluish-white dress dancing around the room with a vase. I don't remember exactly, but I'm almost positive she was also singing. I went into complete shock and tried waking my brother up, but he wouldn't. The girl was a good spirit, no doubt, but she didn't acknowledge me. I immediately put my face on my pillow and forcefully fell asleep because I was in shock. Fast forward a couple years later, and after looking at the hotel's review website, another guest experienced a ghost during their stay. I don't remember if they said it was the girl or not. Keep in mind, I was 8 to 10 years old and didn't report my experience. Been a firm believer in spirits since.